the phenomenon and natural talent, Babusy. Talking about Babusy has a distinctive meaning for me since I met him in late 1963. At that time everybody was talking about the phenomenon Babusy and everyone wanted to be like him. Precisely in those years, we are in the origin of other phenomena, and initially, I was fortunate to be among them. This needs a little clarification. Ed Holsvoogd, who had obtained the first place in the Dutch Youth Drafts Championship of 1961, became runner-up of the Senior Dutch Drafts Championship in 1962. Holsvoogd of 19 years old would be, from September 1962, my future friend and teacher. A friendship that resulted in getting my title of Junior Championship of the Netherlands 1963, after having beaten in the preliminaries my opponent Sijge Brandstang in January 1963. Once in the village Apeldoorn, I met Piet Rosenberg, the fabulous world champion in the years 1948, 1951, 1952 and 1954. He was known for a position that bore his name, namely the Rosenberg position, and apart from this he was a brilliant innovator in the game of universal drafts. Another strong Dutch player in those years was Reinier Cees Keller. Rosenberg, due to university studies, could not participate in various championships of the Netherlands, and his participation in 1963 was a re-entry into the drafts arena. Holsvoogd spoke repeatedly about Babusy to me. He already had known him in another tournament at Brinta in 1962 Brinta that also Babusy won. About this tournament, in 2010, Holsvoogd, before his death, sent me some pictures for my story. In one of these pictures, we see that Babusy is eating the health breakfast and wholemeal grain product, Brinta, and the truth is that Babusy loved this food eating in the morning. At the end of the year, I was invited to play at the International Youth Brinta Tournament Brinta Sapemia. The Brinta tournament was held at Hotel Struve, where Manchokwate and Babusy also remained sometimes. At that time, the rooms were not as modern as today, and one had to walk up to the rooms through an extremely narrow staircase. It was an extremely uncomfortable situation for reporters, who were to climb this scale with their extensive and heavy equipment, in order to make a reportage about Babusy. Also, Mr. Diem, the president of the Senegalese Drafts Federation, stayed down at Hotel Struve and the weather was exceptionally bad in those months. Weeks later he sent a postcard to the Hotel Struve, with the text, "I again found the sun that I lost in your country. Let us now concentrate ourselves on the youth group of the third Brinta tournament of the years 1963 to 1964 that was held at a school with the name of Drive School in the city of Sapemia. The tournament had as sponsor the Royal Scholten Group, in accommodating collaboration with the municipality of the locality. The organizer, Siep Mensenits, also thought this time on a youth group. This group had outstanding players. According to local newspapers, it was attended by the Swiss prodigy, the 14-years-old Andreas Kwijken from Basel, the 16-years-old Dutch junior champion Govert Westerveld, the 13-years-old drafts genius from Amsterdam, Sijge Brands, and an unknown, very young player, of just 10 years, Sapemia. There, in Sapemia, I lost my first game against the young Sapemia, which was a great sensation in the drafts world domestico. The Swiss prodigy, Andreas Kwijken, in my next party, managed a draw at the last minute, which was a tremendous disappointment for me, since he had a totally lost position. Some years later, Kwijken became Grandmaster. I also lost this time from a genius Sijge Brands. Cuando el torneo había terminado tanto Sijge Brands como yo pedimos el turno Amsterdam, y así conjuntamente tuvimos que dormir una mes en el Hotel Struve, donde el dueño del hotel, con preocupación sus se hizo cargo de nosotros dos cuando nos vio aparecer otra vez en el hotel. Entonces tuve tiempo de hablargamente con Sijge Brands y le pregunté si su idea era Jesús campeón del mundo, lo que me contestó afirmativamente. Duista formerly gay a la conclusion the QUE no istaba solo YQUE nunca tendria el mia volda sage brands, en idriasma YQUE mi carrera nunca podria ser como jogador professional del juego de damas. Minha vlero el do Andreas Kalijkan, pero esto no era sufficient para mí. When the tournament was over, both Sage Brands and myself lost the train to Amsterdam, so that we had together to sleep one more night at the Hotel Struve, where the owner of the hotel, with concern in his eyes, took care of us when he saw us appear again in the hotel. Then, I had time talking at length with Sage Brands, and I asked him if his proposal would become world champion. This was affirmed in a positive way. Consequently, I concluded that I was not alone and never would have the level of the prodigy Sage Brands or Isma, and that I could never have a career as a professional player of the game of drafts. My level was that one of Andreas Kalijkan, but this was not enough to have a decent living of the game. Then I informed the entire world that these two players were coming world champions. When people asked the reason, I simply replied, because they had me beaten. This observation was met with derision and snickers, but Sage Brands accomplished this feat in 1972 and 1973. Thereafter he was always considered as one of the best players in the world. Harmiasma, I still have friendship with him, was world champion in 1976, 1977, 1981, 1983 and 1984. Also, the child prodigy, Andreas Kalijkan, would be in no time. Grandmaster settled himself between the best players in the world. Whatever the case is, I met in the Brinta tournament the natural talent Babusy of Senegal, who won the tournament after winning the Dutch champion 1962, Wim de Jong. The kind Babusy was the reason that I became interested in languages. I could not know what he said in French, neither the other players in German and English or the Italian Laporta. Suddenly, I saw the Netherlands as a small country, and I became vividly interested in the foreign countries and learning languages. In 1964, I did not defend my youth title for study purposes. In 1965, I managed a third place in the provincial senior championship, after Sage Brands, who was number one, and after winning the 1962 national champion, Wim de Jong. In those years, the best players were always two of the 11 provinces, that were Noord-Holland and Zuid-Holland. My teacher Ed Holsvoogd finished in fourth place. As in those years the best players in the world were in Russia and the Netherlands, I considered myself in that time among the top 100 players in the world. Despite this, I did not want to extend my drafts career. I liked to reduce myself on languages. The year 1965 was also for my teacher Ed Holsvoogd the last year of his drafts career. He continued playing until his death in 2010 the drafts game, but declined to participate anymore in tournaments. His studies for economist were more important, and soon he had a distinguished job in the Netherlands as politic manager at the Ministry of Social Affairs and Employment. What do we know about these three players in the coming years? Well, Sage Brands would be Dutch junior champion in 1964, was participating in the Senior Championship of Holland since 1965 and became Senior Champion of Holland in 1967, before Piet Rosenberg. Some years later he became world champion, precisely in 1972. Harmiasma, Dutch junior champion in 1966. Participated in the Senior Championship of the Netherlands since 1967. He became champion of Holland in 1972 and was world champion in 1976. On the other hand, Andreas Kalijkan would achieve the fifth place in the Senior European Championship in 1965. The most friendly player in the Brinta tournament was the Belgian Maurice Valline, who was constantly eating raisin bread in the Park Hotel in Sapemia. The Italian Francisco Laporta constantly told us to go to bed at 11 o'clock in the night when we were analyzing our parties, because of our ages. It was not no secrecy that the Italian appreciated especially beautiful women. Who is going crazy about this? The Frenchman Claude Garnier ate 2 steaks obscured by eggs every morning. Of course it was inevitable that the kitchen staff at the Hotel Struve launched in more than one occasion size. And what about the Frenchman Michael Hissard, who enjoyed racing on the bicycle of the hotel's owner, along the center channel? The king of the twist dance was Valois Smit, a thin young man of Paramaribo. Pieter Bergsma and international grandmaster, Rainier Cornelis Keller, were the most sought speakers on the radio. It should have been in the years 1963 to 1964 that Babusy gave a necklace to Mrs. Msnikas of Houadjazand, when the Senegalese participated in the Brinta tournament, being held at Hotel Struve. Babusy remained at that time at Hotel Faber, and the truth is that Babusy, the player with a glimpse of 9 plays ahead on the board, felt particularly comfortable in Houadjazand Sapamir, and as thank he gave to more than one person a necklace. This all is worthwhile to mention. It is thanks to Babusy that in those years, in the Netherlands, the game of checkers gained enormously in popularity. Since 1965, Babusy was going to have serious rivals as Tunsige brands, Harmiersma and Andreas Kwijken. However, all this in 2012 is now history. Yes, it is true that Babusy totally changed my life.